Hey everybody, my name is Paul, I'm the gamer Scot, and welcome to my first look at Night of the Dead, a zombie survival simulator. But before you switch off, don't go! I know what you're thinking, I was thinking it too. But there's actually some stuff I think makes this one different from all the others out there. Before we start, I just want to remind you I stream indie games like this right here on YouTube. So if you want to join me and the rest of the clan, hit that subscribe button like you're delivering the final killing blow to the first zombie you've seen in this apocalypse. So yeah, you already know the score. There's you, and there's a bunch of zombies. The resources scattered around the world you need to collect and turn into useful items and supplies to get you through. It's a formula we've seen so many times before that it's hard to get excited about a new game, especially when the world in general kind of got over the zombie thing a couple of years ago. But Night of the Dead is a little bit different, and I think it's worth looking at those differences. So for anyone playing catch up on this genre, I'll dive through the basics quickly. Chop down trees to gather wood. Mine rocks to get stone and metal. Basically it. One thing I love about this in Night of the Dead is the way the chunks fall off. It's not quite real physics, but the rocks and trees break based on where you hit them. It makes absolutely no difference to the resources you get from them, as far as I know at least, but it does look kinda cool, and that's important. You then need to build benches and machines to turn these raw resources into usable variations. Wooden planks and beams, stone bricks, etc, etc. And with those resources comes my third favourite feature of Night of the Dead. No babysitting, hunger and thirst meters. I always hate hunger and thirst meters in games, because, in my opinion, they distract from the things you're supposed to be doing. If you want me to go gather wood so I can build my shelter, don't force me to stop doing that and go and pick berries all day instead, just so my hunger meter's filled up. Humans can survive for days without eating or drinking, and while you'd feel like crap, you'd be alive. So why do most survival games force me to scavenge and eat several pieces of food every day just because a little coloured bar tells me I need to? That is not a part of Night of the Dead, and I love it. And you know what else? An amazing, revolutionary idea? Your torch battery never runs out either. On top of babysitting hunger and thirst bars, I hate torch battery meters. Especially when you need to go around trying to find new batteries. Ugh. So in Night of the Dead, you only need food to restore health and stamina. The health and stamina meters get shortened if you die, but there are foods and drinks to restore that to normal as well. On top of that, you can add temporary buffs with specific foods too. Things like health and stamina regen or increased attack speed, etc. It creates a nice compromise between choosing to gather food versus being forced to do it. The day and night cycle in Night of the Dead is really long, like a couple of hours long. And at least in the early game, you spend a lot of that night cycle in darkness. Without the torch, you can't see a damn thing, which would be incredibly annoying if you had to hunt batteries. There's a part of me wishes there was more of a sunrise, sunset transition phase so it wasn't quite so dark, but at least with the unlimited torch, you can still see what you're doing. So thankfully, no hunger and thirst or battery meters here to worry about, meaning you can get on with the fun parts of the game, gathering your resources and building your base. Compared to a lot of other base building games I've played, Night of the Dead's construction is pretty comprehensive. There's floors and stairs and windows and doors. Each one has 3 available upgrades from wood to stone to metal, and each provides more defense from the zombies when they attack. At the time of writing, I don't know how tall you can actually make your buildings, so I'm going to try and put a stupidly tall building together just to see what happens. I guess you'll be seeing how that went right now. And we're not done talking about construction yet. But first, let's talk about the zombies themselves. Most of the ones you see are your standard shamblers, slow-moving, dumb walkers that mindlessly come straight towards you. But there are a few variants as well. Some of them run faster, some of them hit harder, some of them jump around, some fire projectiles, some have more hit points. It's a good selection, even if it does fall into the usual thing where you see the same duplicate zombie over and over. But I don't think that's something we're going to stop seeing anytime soon. When you get them just one at a time, killing a zombie's easy. You can dodge their attacks, you're quicker and smarter than them. You can sometimes just pick them off from a distance with a bow and arrow. We're not done talking about zombies yet though. My second favourite feature in Night of the Dead is the Horde. Every night between midnight and 2 AM, you get swarmed by a giant horde of zombies. When I first played the game much earlier in development, the first night's horde was only a handful of shamblers, but dear lord have they updated that now. Now, there are hundreds. It's amazing and terrifying. And although most of them reach you around the same time, there will be some early runners and some stragglers. So it's never really clear when you're actually safe. So for that full 2-hour in-game period, in the dark, you'll be running around trying to escape the grasping fingers and chomping teeth of a giant, inescapable horde. And each night, at least as far as I've seen so far, that horde gets a bit bigger. So how do you fight that many undead monsters? I'm glad you asked. Assuming you did. I can't hear you. That's not how these videos work. Well, now we get to my favourite feature of Night of the Dead. The machines and traps. Because yeah, you could try and fight the zombies like a loser, hiding in a base, firing arrows at them, or standing just out of reach and swinging a long weapon. But this game is not about that kind of lifestyle. It has traps. Pretty epic traps. One of the many options you've got when it comes to construction are giant machines of death. Spinning blades, spiked balls on sticks, crushing blocks, spiked floors, trebuchets, catapults, you name it, they've probably got it here. One thing worth noting that you'll see a good example of in the footage is that your construction works way better on flat ground than on the side of a hill, but I made my choice and it was too late to change. As a player, and personally as someone who loves to mess with what I've been given, the best news is that the zombies tend to run at you via the same route. That means you know roughly where they're coming from and where they're going. And if you want to use some tower defense tactics to funnel the Walking Dead down a specific route so that they get hit by everything you've built, well, you can do that. There's nothing quite as satisfying as watching your plan come together.
I love it when a plan comes together.
That covers most of the stuff that I really like, so you might be asking if there's anything I don't like about Night of the Dead. There's a few things that I think could use some tweaks. The combat is a bit janky, and I think that's par for the course with games like this. Hand to hand is okay, and the weapons all feel different to use, but using the bow and arrows is pretty basic. It's hard to tell if there's projectile curve, but more than that, it's also a bit confusing that the reticule flashes red whether you hit or not. It's cool that you can get most of your arrows back by pulling them out of the things you hit, but that doesn't really make up for it. That said, I also understand that player combat isn't really the focus here. Night of the Dead is definitely all about the automatic traps. I have some questions about the RPG elements. When you level up, you can assign points to character stats like strength or endurance. But although it tells you what effect it's supposed to have, I can't say I've noticed any difference in my moment-to-moment gameplay. Even after increasing tree damage, yeah, really, it still takes the same number of swings to chop down the trees. I'm hoping it's just something that hasn't been properly added yet, since it's still early access, but there's nothing in-game to tell you that. My last minor gripe is with the number of building stations. There's one for making equipment, one for certain pieces of construction materials, another for different construction materials, another one for food, and if you just load your inventory, you can use that for making certain items without a bench at all. Food I get, but the other ones seem to be a bit arbitrary. This is where I'd actually steal the way Terraria's UI works, where as long as you're in range of the right bench, you can assemble basically whatever you want. I'd like to combine it all into just one inventory screen so you can stand in the middle of the room and work them all. But again, minor. Because you can lay your building out in whatever configuration you like, you can set it up so you're not running backwards and forwards all the time. Now, there is an endgame state in Night of the Dead where you can, presumably, escape the island, but I've never had the desire to actually go for it. Once you get a base set up and you're wiping out hundreds of undead every night, it becomes a bit of a sadistic thrill to just sit and watch them get absolutely bodied by your setup. So yeah, your map updates automatically as you go, and you get a hint at the very start to let you know the spot you're looking for, but I haven't played long enough to get there. That's also not what these videos are about, so even after, holy crap, 20 hours of playing this, I'm still having a blast. It has co-op, but since I don't know anyone else who owns the game, I haven't been able to try that. And now on to the accessibility options. For the visually impaired, there's target highlighting on by default, which is great. It's a pretty low contrast colour shift, but it might be enough to differentiate what you're hitting from the surroundings. There's UI scaling, but only down for some reason, so if you can't read the text at 100%, that's not really going to help you. There are no subtitles, but there's no speech, and everything important is on tooltips anyway. They do have separate audio sliders for everything though, which is something I always appreciate. And the keys are fully rebindable for anyone who uses a custom controller or needs more button space. The most impressive feature of all, at least from an accessibility standpoint, is the totally comprehensive difficulty setting. Before you create your game, you can choose a starting difficulty level and you can turn off respawning zombies. You can disable the horde, although this would be my absolute last resort. It seems that you can tweak pretty much any feature to make your life easier, or harder if that's your thing. I've been enjoying it on the standard difficulty, and I actually think I should have gone up a bit, but I'd rather my machines felt OP as hell than everything got destroyed every single night. Night of the Dead is probably going to disappear into the saturated zombie survival market, and I think that's sad. It deserves more than that. The trap element alone makes it stand out, but the construction model is also really good. Development updates are still happening, and the optimization that's happened since I last checked in, this is my second attempt at writing this script, is impressive. So it's definitely worth taking a look, even if you don't usually get on with games of this style. If you enjoyed the style of this video, then please drop me a like, hit dislike if you didn't, and if you haven't already, please think about subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss new stuff as it rolls out. Once again, I stream games like this right here, and I have new first look videos as often as I can. I'm the Gamer Scot, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.